This week we review Flintlock Siege of Dawn and discuss how multiplayer games fit into our busy lives. And on this week's Pixel Picks Showdown, it's a big one as we name the best JRPG game. All this and more on the Pixel Parent Podcast. Hello and welcome to the next episode of the Pixel Parents Podcast, the show that discusses all things gaming from the perspective of parents. I am your host, Liam Kelvin, and today I'm of course joined by Scott, the tastemaker, the bearded one, Curry. How are we, Scott?
I'm very well. Still recovering from Sweden and the heat, the bloody heat over there. But apart from that, I'm fairly all right. How are you?
Good. It's been a good week. I'm midway through a week off work, so I can't really complain.
I know. I'm coming up to the end of 3 weeks off work. I'm feeling it now, man.
The dread,
the Sunday fear. It's like watching Heartbeat on a Sunday night.
I'll be there with you, man, on Sunday. I'll get the inbox anxiety. Just hoping. You know, I've been away a few days, and I've said to my team before I've left, only text me if like something's on fire, that type of thing, you know.
Your computer is on fire.
Aye, and I've had like 2 half text messages type thing. That's just what happens when you give out numbers, I suppose. But such is life. But you mentioned that there's Sweden heat. I never put those two together. I just always think, you know, Scandinavian, Baltic.
It's cold and everyone wears jackets, but it's the complete opposite. It wasn't even that hot. It was like 24 degrees, which is like, for my wife, it's like, you know, sweater weather. It's like I might put a cardigan on.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm pissing sweat out of every single pore that I can possibly fucking piss sweat out of, man. But you know, if you want a quick Pixel Parent review of Stockholm, don't take children with you unless they're happy to walk 20,000 steps a day.
Oh man.
Or you want to get on boats and trains every 5 minutes. It's brutal. I carried the wee one on my back 95% of the time that we were there just to get places quickly.
Things we do.
Yeah, and it's lovely though. I mean, it's an absolutely lovely place, and there's a lot to do. So take your children. Don't listen to me. Take your children. Take everyone you know. Go and see the ABBA Museum. Go to Skansen. Go to the zoo, which is just Edinburgh Zoo in Sweden.
Lovely.
And eat meatballs to your heart's content.
There you go. See.
Even go to IKEA. I went to IKEA in Sweden to go to the toilet. And I'll tell you something. It's definitely an IKEA. Everything's the same.
That's it. Here's the toilet. Just assemble it first. Off you go. Aye, I suppose. There's something you do need to take into consideration when you're away with wee ones, I suppose, isn't it? Like,
city breaks are probably not the thing to do unless you know you've got things planned. But we went without really much plan. We just thought we'll go and we'll just see kind of what we can find. And if you go looking, you can find certain things. But at a point, it just becomes like every other city that you've ever been to, where there's like restaurants where you can sit outside and there's big, you know, areas in towns and stuff like that where there's loads of people floating about. So
yeah,
it just becomes like any other normal city. But we went on a bus that goes in the water, and it was violent. I mean, it was like you walk up to the end of this beach, and this bus it's like a big shark. Right? Keep me right here, but it's been modded to look like a shark, and I'll show you a picture of it as I'm doing this. Right?
Okay.
Listeners, you're just gonna have to believe me on this.
Picture the shark boat.
It's you walk up to the edge of this beach, and it literally turns on a dime and just launches you straight into the water, and then drives in the water. It's mad, but yeah, it's a shark boat.
My God, that looks quite small. I mean,
it's massive. No, it's massive. Like,
to get all use on that, you're going to need a bigger boat.
Ha ha ha. But yeah, it was fun, and I saw Bruce Springsteen as well. I forgot to tell you that.
The boss.
He was in the Grand Central Hotel in the middle of Stockholm. So we saw him. We saw loads of people standing outside, and the E Street Band were kicking about, and then everyone was like, "Who's this?" And then I just went on Instagram and saw he was playing in Norway the day after, and then we went back for lunch the day we left, and he stoated out.
Lovely.
So, hey, dude, like listening to your podcast, man.
Where were you born, mate?
So that's what we're looking at, because the guy's like 72.
Mhm.
I'm derailing the podcast, right? I don't even apologize for it, but he's 72. He's worth at least $1 billion,
Mhm.
at least, and he was dressed horrifically. Like, put a bit of effort in, mate. You know what I mean?
But if I was a billionaire, I'd probably still be cutting about in the joggies and stuff, you know, just
hiding from everyone. But no, it was a lovely holiday, and I kind of define success in holidays now where I either gain weight or lose weight,
Mhm.
and I did neither. I just maintained, so
Success.
that's a success, and that's it.
Excellent. You love to hear it. You do love to hear it. But I suppose with that out the road, we'll get some housekeeping out the road and we can dig into it, because we've actually got quite a bit to talk about today on this show. Our listeners will be ecstatic. So, yeah. And I do mean that kind of sounding sarcastic. But of course, if you want to be part of the podcast, come say hello and share your thoughts with us at Pixel_Parents on Twitter, or write to us at pixelparentspodcast@gmail.com. Of course, we appreciate all your support. We'd love it if you left us a wee 5-star review on your podcast platform of choice, and that really helps us out. And again, thank you to everybody that joins us each and every week. You mean the world to us, so thank you for that. So, with all that out the way, Scott, I know you've been on holiday, but what have you been playing this week? Did you find any time to play any games?
Not really, no.
No?
I spoke about it last week that not been a great flyer. And I continued to form. You know, I hate it. I hate everything about it. I don't understand it. It's completely unnatural being that high in the air in a big stupid tin box.
Man should not defy gravity.
It doesn't make sense. It really doesn't make sense. And I feel that every single jut in the air is just me falling through the sky.
Right.
So I can't relax at all. But I took the Switch with me anyway in the hopes that it would help. And I played Paper Mario for the grand total of about 3.5 minutes.
Right, okay.
The whole time I was on the plane, which is an hour and a half each way. But I thought, I mean, I'm really keen on playing it. So when we got back, obviously, I told you that we've been playing it with the wee one, and we got back on it. So finished chapter 1, and it's brilliant. I'm loving Paper Mario, the 1,000-Year Door, I think it is. It's brilliant. It's full of charm, and like I kind of think that with Mario games as they've developed, it's kind of become a bit more. There's a bit more personality around it. Like Mario is still Mario,
yeah,
but everything around him has more personality. And I'm really enjoying it. I beat chapter 1, slowly getting the hang. So this was the big thing when we were playing it, because I was telling you that she's good at controlling it, but jumping and moving at the same time is just not happening. And we're getting there slowly but surely. But I sat and watched for about 7 minutes of her try to jump into a pipe,
right,
land on top and press A. But every single time she would do it, she would jump on the pipe and move. So it's like, right, let's just go back and try again and just keep on doing it.
Practice
And
makes
then
perfect.
eventually we get there. But the sort of the contrast to that is that when it comes to combat, and you're obviously timing the jumps on the head and stuff like that, amazing at it.
Yeah.
Does things that I can't do on it. So she's significantly better than me at combat. I help her choose what she's going to do. Not really though, but she kind of picks it, and then I kind of, maybe you should try this. But we've been loving it through chapter 1, and I tried to play it myself for a wee bit the other night, and she was raging. So I now literally can't turn on my Nintendo Switch without her being there. Obviously excited to get back and play Persona 3 again. I think I played it for about an hour and a half the night we got back, because I just, you spend all that time with your family and you're like,
yeah,
we need a bit of separation. Like my wife needed to go and sit and watch Keeping Up with the Kardashians. And then I was like, I just need to go and like get away from the dog, actually. So
poor dog.
she's lovely, but she's too much. But yeah, played Persona 3, and I'm again the game that never ends. It keeps on giving more as well, which is frightening. So I'll probably be talking about it next July by the time it's finished, and obviously then Kunitsu-Gami, Path of the Goddess had released as well. So I've got a few hours on that, and I've got notes to delve into.
Well, give us your thoughts now. What did you make of it? What's your impression?
It's really good. It is really good, and I think that every single review and anyone that I've heard talk about it talks about it being like a relic of the PS2 era, and it is completely that in a nutshell. Like it's the kind of game that you would find like if your mate had a chipped PS2. There's always like a weird game on it. You're like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
But it turns out to be like a pure hidden gem. It's like Gitaroo Man or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Like nobody's ever played it before, but you see it and you're like, that's class.
Yeah.
It's to kind of dive into it a wee bit. It's a tower defense game, but a hack and slash game, strategy game. It's everything amalgamated into this one thing.
Right.
You play as So. You've got to look after a goddess, a maiden called Yoshiro, and basically what you do is you have to take her from point A to point B, carving a sort of path into the ground, and then she walks through it slow as all hell. Like that's basically the game. You've got to get her from this point to that point, and then once you've done that, you cleanse the defilement, and that's basically the game. The defilement is like it's like demon things and like plants and different hands and stuff like that to kind of describe it. That doesn't describe it at all. It's like Devil May Cry basically, or Onimusha, and you walk up to it, you hold B. I'm playing it on Xbox. I'm playing it on Game Pass, which is if I didn't have Game Pass, didn't have it on Game Pass, I don't think I'd pay for it because I think it's what £40 or something like that, £20.
Yeah.
That's a complete jump, but it's a weird game, but there's something really satisfying about you have to clear all this defilement. So like some of it is just going to be you clear it and you get crystals. Some of it you clear and you pick up wee villagers and then you can assign them roles. So you've got like where I am so far, so I'm about 4 or 5 hours into it, about kind of 4 bosses down, I think. Woodcutter, archer, sumo wrestler, aesthetic, thief, and I'm sure I'm missing something, but basically you assign them roles and then that's during the day. You get everything set up, and then nighttime a torii gate opens, so where you're taking the maiden to, that opens and it lets in all these demons into the room, and then you would basically take them out one by one. Right. And that's basically how it revolves. So you have like nighttime, and that's the point where everything sort of goes to shit. Everything that you've planned fails. But there's something really cool about it. Like you can sit back and watch all your characters deal with everything on the screen, or you can get in there and you can tap buttons and start knocking lumps out of everything on there. But it's the kind of game that you can you have to be switched on enough to know what's happening. Right. But you can completely switch off while you're playing it. Like you don't really have to put much thought into it. It's not like playing like an Elden Ring or something like that. Like I don't have to constantly think about what I'm doing. As I can leave it. You know what I mean? Like and there's a pause button, so that's good.
Happy days.
But kind of toyed around with it a little bit. So I think that it runs off the RE engine, which is like primo Capcom at the moment with everything. Gorgeous. And it looks every single kind of bit as good for it. It runs better in performance mode than in quality mode, like every other game. I kind of feel like with quality mode, it always has that wee jump. It always feels a wee bit off, but performance mode, I think it runs buttery smooth. I kind of feel like it's not that difficult. If you'd spoken to me without the hour that I played last night, I'd have been like, it's easy. Right. So easy. But then it just flipped everything on its head. Right, okay. And it hit really hard. So
there's a spike.
There's a spike in it, aye. But basically it's clear defilement in a village and get a maiden to one area to another, and that's pretty much it. You finish a level, you get to a base, the base is destroyed because that's the area that you've just cleared. You build that back up and then you move on. There's boss battles after most levels and stuff as well. Yeah. And they all have different wee things in it. Like there's one of them I just fought that has candles around the room and you have to light them before the boss will take damage. It's just daft wee things in it, but it's It's good. I think it's a game that you'll like, which is shocking. I think that you. It's not a game that you have to really sit down and watch the story. There's no dialogue in it. There's maybe dialogue at the start that tells you sort of what to expect, but there's no real dialogue in it, so you can just switch off. And I think there's something about it that you'll enjoy. Like it's I think it's just something daft that
I think I'll check it out since it's on Game Pass. You know, if I'll check it if you say that. Like I said, if obviously this isn't a review of it, but is it something you see yourself going back to at this point?
Yeah, 100%. I think that I'll probably finish it before I go back and play Persona.
Awesome.
And if I had to give it a score, because we're into doing that
based on what you've played,
I'd probably say it's an 8 as if I've ever seen one. It's a very good game, and I don't really see any negatives in it at the moment. Like it doesn't push itself into the 9s or 10s and the times like kind of upper echelons. It does everything it does really well,
right?
And doesn't really go further than that. But ask me again next week or the week after, and I'll tell you if anything's changed in that. But
I'll look forward to it.
I'm keen to get back to it.
See what your official score will be come the end of it. I might say, is it a long game? Do you think it's?
I don't think so. I think people are saying that it's kind of you can finish it between 20-25 hours. But that's if you're going through everything. You could if you weren't doing all the base repairs and stuff like that, or petting every single dog and animal that you see there. Then you could pet deer in this one.
That's me doomed.
If you're not doing that, then I reckon you could probably get through it pretty quickly. But as I say, that wee difficulty spike last night set me back an hour. So I'm about 4 or 5 hours into it. But without that, I'd be 4 hours or something like that. But it kind of feels like if I did have to give any negative points in it, you have to sometimes go back to collect these crystal things to move forward with it.
Right, okay.
Because the crystals are what you use to assign the roles to the different villagers and stuff like that you clear. So if you don't have those crystals, then you're basically gubbed until you find them. Which was what was happening to me in that fight. I'd have like maybe 300 and I needed 350 or something like that, and I couldn't do anything with that. So that kind of set me back a bit. But to be honest with you, it's minor. I mean, you can knock that out really quickly. Just go back and finish a level and stuff. And there's challenges and stuff as well for each level. So there's always something to do in it, and it feels like, it's nice to have something that isn't really standard.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like we spoke a lot when Senua's Sacrifice came out that the kind of companies aren't taking risks, and it's all very samey hero shooters stuff like that. But feudal Japan, but
keep coming back to the
it's just kind of nice to play something that's a bit weird. And I think the weirdness would probably turn you off from it if it was pushing that in your face the whole time. But it's not really doing that. It's kind of just like it's a game set in that period, whatever period it is, and you can just do whatever you want basically. But there's something really satisfying about it. I'll give it that. Okay. I think if it was just a strategy game, I wouldn't like it. But the fact that it's got the hack and slash element in it, it does give you something to do whilst you're playing it.
Awesome. Well, you've set the challenge now. The gauntlet's down. Which, to be honest with you, I am very happy to have it just now because I feel like we're in the eye of the storm just now, or the calm before the storm. Sorry, the eye of the storm. We'll be there soon. There's the calm before it, before we start to get this real just avalanche of big releases towards the end of the year. So it's very much buffet mode just now for me, just kind of dipping in and out.
That's the thing with it. It's a game that you'll know that you'll like within the first hour. That's the thing, is that it's not, the gameplay loop doesn't shift.
Right.
It maybe just gets more difficult and like you have to kind of approach it in a different way. Because like, you might have one path for the first few levels, but then you've got 2 paths to deal with, or 3 paths the next. You start with 2 villagers, you might have 6, you might have 12. It's kind of like Pikmin that way, that you have to deal with like loads of different things. But as I say, if you've not played it, give it a go, because it's really worth it. And I think there's something there. I don't think we'll see Kunitsu-Gami 2, more of the goddess, but I think that for a game like this, the fact that it's on Game Pass is going to do really well. I'd like to see how it performs elsewhere, kind of around the industry, but People will play it. People love Capcom as well. So
yeah, they're definitely a return to form just now. So fair play. Awesome. No, it sounds like a pretty good week, all things considered.
all
since
things
you've been
considered,
away, you know.
managed to squeeze stuff in.
Oh, well done. I suppose for my week this week, so Flintlock Siege of Dawn has come out on Game Pass also. So I have played that, finished it, and reviewed it, which I'll come to in a moment. But as for the rest of the week, you know, I've my son, he wanted to go back to play Minecraft.
Ooh.
So I obliged. I still don't get this game.
I don't understand it.
It's been out for donkeys. I don't understand it. But one thing that I've found it to be excellent for, and I thought this is why it's worth bringing it up, it's almost like a great tool to help very young gamers, my son's 4, to better understand like the ergonomics of modern controls.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like there's a creative mode, so you can literally just float about, and you know, one pixel goes into the next, and oh, there's a sheep. I don't get the game, but it's basically, you know, I'm watching his hands on the controller, and he's holding it differently each time that he's doing it.
Yeah.
So it's like, right, okay, and it's gentle and stuff like that. So that's definitely been good this week. Yeah, in terms of the whole like kind of parent co-op type update for myself this week.
You've not fought the Ender Dragon yet?
No, I couldn't even tell you what it is. Is it the horse-looking thing of the mountain?
You make some portal and you fall into a thing. I watched this speedrun of it and you kill him with beds. That's all I know.
Wow,
it doesn't make any sense at all, but you can kill him with beds, apparently.
He has managed to look down and dig a hole so far down he can't get back to the world.
Fantastic.
So he's done that. He's got to the core of the earth just by pressing R2 for ages. So I'm like, cool. So he was entertained. I was like, why? I can't help you here. You're in the core of the earth. But yeah, I think outside of that, after I played Flintlock, you know, I was like, I'll go back to Octopath Traveler 2, which is still kind of home for me just now, like circling around. But what I've actually done is I was just kind of browsing the store yesterday and thinking, what's in my backlog that I've not really touched, and that it was there. It was Horizon Forbidden West DLC, The Burning Shores. So I've started that, and I'm like, this is great. It's exactly what I need, because I know it's a very short, sharp, 10-ish hour experience. I forgot how good that game looks. Like, it was like, wow. Just going back to that, it's always one of those ones, like I platinumed it last year, and you know, like the back of your hand, but you pick up a game like that, and it's like end game content, and it's like, how do I crouch? You know, like, how do I run?
I love that.
But I actually made something I never make use of, is go into the game settings and go back to like the notes and the tutorial stuff, like how to do the controls. So I sat for 5 minutes, and then it all just came back to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm doing that, and on top of that, I suppose it is time for my very sad Marvel Snap update. Isn't it?
What was the jingle?
Yeah. No, it's because it's been a controversial few days.
I'm going to take a back seat on this and lie down for half an hour. Give me a shout.
Give you in 5 minutes, right? So as we know, Deadpool Wolverine's on the horizon. So the season this month is all about Deadpool. So they've launched a new game mode, Second Dinner, Deadpool's Diner, and it's basically just like a double in stakes like game mode, and they've introduced a new currency within it. Long story short, you go into it, you play your first 2 games, and all your currency's gone, and you're thinking, right, well, I must just be able to go back and earn it like you would normally do in like conquest mode. Then you're presented with like, oh, you need to buy more currency or wait an hour. And the whole point is it always doubles effectively.
Yeah.
And you accumulate. But I'm like, this makes no sense. And I'm not going to sit and explain the mode on this because it's confusing enough as it is. Even though I've played it now and I'm like making progress, they've actually went back and they've updated it today to basically completely lower like the level of that first kind of table that you play at, so that you don't lose everything straight away.
But what if you lose that?
If you lose that, it's still the same thing. And I was like, it's an easy fix. Just let people start with nothing and earn like the minimum amount of credits by winning a game to then go into it.
Aye.
But the fact that it was monetized, it just felt gross.
Ooh,
Really, really gross.
Marvel Snap drama.
Yeah, and there is an element of saltiness about it because you're like, oh, you've lost a game, you're tilting. It's like, oh, now I'm locked out of the mode.
Now I need to pay £5 to get back into it.
Exactly. So don't get me wrong, that was over and done with in an hour. But
Aye.
it was just the principle of it. I'm like, nah, this
It's
is
really,
because
it's really backwards.
it
Like,
shouldn't feel. Marvel Snap's been great because it doesn't feel like a mobile game that's trying to nickel and dime you.
aye,
And
even though it is.
even though it is, but this very much was like, nah, this ain't it. But it's a new mode. It was slightly disappointing upon launch, but we'll still play it. Do I see myself getting the 5 million bubs or whatever it is required to get the new card?
I do.
Who knows? Who knows? But it's
List.
only live for 2 weeks. But I think it's going to take a lot of Deadpool hype to kind of carry me through this, and we'll see. I'm seeing the film tomorrow, so I'm very much looking forward to that. But yeah, that's been it, and I'm still just sitting waiting on the next big game, or the PS5 Pro to get announced any day. Like, just very much eagerly looking forward to that. But like I mentioned, I spent most of my weekend playing Flintlock Siege of Dawn. So I have played it all, Scott, and I'm happy to review it for your listening pleasure. So I'm going to start off
Just
with
me.
the score.
Just my listening
you.
pleasure.
just you and me here. But I'm going to give this game a 6.
A 6.
6 out of 10, which I believe on our scale is okay.
It's okay.
It's okay. I did think, is it a 7? Is it a 6? There's a couple of things there that dragged it down for me. Basically, if you're unfamiliar, the game's on Game Pass just now, but it's also available on PlayStation 5. So it's described as a Souls-light, not a Souls-like. So it has elements, the combat progression and stuff, but it's really more of a typical third-person action adventure RPG, I would say. It has more in common with like God of War and Jedi Survivor than Dark Souls. So that's kind of like what to anticipate going into this. But you're playing as a character called Noah, who's a sapper. She's basically this badass that deals with all the dangerous foes in the trenches. She basically opens this rift that unleashes the undead and gods in the world, and you have to basically go and undo that. And it's a big journey that unfolds after that. But you've got this little companion Enki, which is that fox-like creature that accompanies you. I actually grew to really enjoy both these characters as it went on. That was definitely a strength.
Right, okay.
The voice acting in it was fantastic, I have to say. But it screamed a game that was aiming for AAA quality, but it was double A all the way through.
Aye.
And I don't hold that against it. I really admired what they were going for, but
Yeah.
there was a lack of polish throughout it that was just, it almost kind of felt like it was buckling under the weight of itself a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I'll continue. But the world that they've built is really interesting. There's this kind of mix of like fantasy and this kind of American colonialism vibe that's going on. So, a lot of melee weapons, a lot of muskets and gunpowder and all that stuff. So you're intrigued to kind of learn more about it. It has all the typical scenery you'd expect in these type of games. There's the snow part, there's the sunny part, that type of thing. Which was good. But one of its strengths is all about this progression system, right?
Mm-hmm.
So very similar to Souls games. You defeat an enemy and you'll get souls. In this case, it's reputation. But what happens is it incentivizes you to kind of string together combos and not get hit. So the more you do, you kind of get like this. So you take out an enemy, you get 100 reputation. But if you've landed, like you did a perfect dodge, you've did like a perfect parry, it'll then like that times like 5 times 6 times 7. And it's kind of adding like this multiplier. And you can then just press left on the D-pad to kind of bank it and then take the bonus, or you can keep going into another like engagement. And if you get hit, you lose it all. But you still get your base amount, you're just missing that extra, which is good. So it's this kind of like tiny risk reward system that they've built into it.
What's the incentive for not banking it though? So if you've got like,
you just don't get the extra, so you'll still get the base amount.
If I take 600, right,
mm-hmm.
and I go into another fight, does that multiply?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. That's so like if I dodge, that multiplies by whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay.
So for every action you're doing, it's rewarding you. It's giving you that back, and it's only ever just kind of on top of what the base amount is.
Mm-hmm.
So which is good. So it's not like you lose everything just because you've got hit. It's just that you can gain extra. So it's always just kind of pushing you to be. I found myself in each one of these kind of combat fights, particularly if it was like loads of enemies. It's like, well, I don't want to get hit because I want to get as much as I can out of it. But I actually found that to be such a cool little crease on the kind of souls.
Aye, it's quite cool.
Progression
It's
system.
just something else to think about, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
so the weakest link.
Effectively, yes. But it was definitely something that was a highlight within throughout the game because it made each encounter engaging as opposed to, I think without it, it would have felt really kind of lackluster because, you know, it has its challenging moments.
Yeah.
That's the thing, playing it normal. I will say it does have a harder difficulty mode. It does have an easy mode. If you're playing it in that, you don't get any achievements.
Does it have a pause button?
It does have a pause button.
Yes.
A very basic ass looking pause menu as well, but it's that's beside the point. But I mean, it's definitely one of those ones that when you're playing it, that added a lot to the experience. So I mean,
it gamifies something really mundane. Like,
yeah, it does.
That's good. Like,
and it's the same as you get like in a Souls game. So this is where the Souls elements come in. If you die, all your reputation will be left there, and then obviously when you spawn in, you can get them back as you would the Souls.
yeah,
And you've kind of got like the bonfire type, their version of the bonfire like system. So every time you rest, the enemies will respawn.
they'll
And all that
respawn.
stuff.
Does the banking thing happen instantaneously, or do you need to like? So if I'm like mid fight and I know I'm going to get hit, can I bank it and then that's it?
So
that's
that kind of became part of almost like your
a crutch, like it's
controller rhythm.
Aye, that's quite cool. That is good.
It was good, and you know, it's definitely something that it has going for it. I'd like to see more of that if possible. As I'd mentioned, like it has that double A sheen to it, right? I am a stickler for a font, right? You know this, right? And it was all basic as hell. I'm like, this looks like Tahoma or Arial or something like that, like really, really basic. And it just added this little sense of there's just a wee layer of polish
Like
missing from the whole thing.
Who made it?
It was from the makers of Ashen, which is A44. A44 Games, they made Ashen.
Ashen had a good font.
It did have a good font. It did. This one, it just kind of bled into the biggest problem that I had. So the HDR on this game is completely broken.
Right, okay.
Like, it is a mess. So you've basically got your standard options just to adjust your brightness to the gamma in this case, and the game is very dark. So there's a lot of shadows and stuff. You can see what they're going for. They're trying to get the whole god rays and the cool lighting effects and make it atmospheric. But because there's a lot of like sunnier type climates, probably more inspired by like African type things mixed with like American, if that makes sense. So there's a lot of sunlight and there's a lot of shadow, but you're constantly playing this. And I must admit, I was actually getting headaches a few times just because I was like really trying to see the action, and it meant that some of the enemies, you just couldn't see them at all. And it's like, all right, there you are, right, I'll take you on. And so you adjust the brightness up because naturally it's the first thing you do. All it does is make the UI brighter. So the game is still dark, and it's to the point you can actually see the separate rectangles on a gradient on the UI in front of you. And there's Enki's got these special abilities that you can use. So when that charges up, it's like this purple diamond that's in the bottom right of the HUD.
Right, okay.
And that just becomes brighter than the surface of hell, and everything's so dark. But it's to the point where you can actually just see the lack of finesse. So it's just like two elements.
Aye.
The layers, you can see the physical layers of this element on the screen. And that bleeds into like your inventory menu. So of course, like you press select, and you've got gear options and stuff like that in it. So you can change it, and it gives you different boosts and abilities and all that stuff. You can't see them. It's just like grey background, and then the characters are all washed out. They look like the like Adam Warlock and Guardians of the Galaxy, like just turned up to 100 brightness. So it's just like all gold. You can't, like, Enki's like dark bluey, like black, almost
bluey. It's like
it's
the character Bluey.
It's kind of like a smoky grey kind of coat to him.
Aye, I had to Google it just to see what he looks like.
Honestly, it looked like ashen smoke. It was terrible. It was genuinely, the whole time through it, I was hoping they were going to issue like just a wee hot fix
or something. Is it something that's been addressed?
I don't know. I've not looked at it since, but I really hope they do fix it, because it robbed you of what they were trying to go for. Because there is a really good looking game underneath that, but the experience of playing it Again, lack of polish, poor execution. And I was actually really shocked that it's went out in that state, if I'm honest.
Okay.
So it did make the experience much worse than what it should have been. Sullied it. And it's a shame, because it's such a... Obviously, there is a lot of hard work behind doing that.
Yeah.
But me, as an idiot who does not work in game development, is like, that seems like a basic thing to do, but I know it's not. So, I mean, I'm not going to push them too hard for it, but it was just... You can see right in front of you, behind this blinding UI, there's this gorgeous world that you're wanting to see, because the style's cool, and it was just a real shame. But the combat, though, moving on to that, it wasn't as responsive as I liked. So you effectively have your axe, you get your pistol, you get a few other things as well, like you get grenades and stuff like that as well, that use them not in the way you think you would. It's not like tap RB and you've got infinite amount. They respawn. And they've got this really cool like reload system with like a long range musket. Well, it's like when you reload it, you have to kind of like tap A at the perfect point to reload. And it's got some cool like slow headshot animations and stuff. So if you need to take out people at range. But the combat really made me appreciate God of War 2018 and Ragnarok.
Aye.
Because you're effectively just swinging, and that's really it. And it does have some like okay dodges, and it's got like a Bloodborne-esque parry to things. So yeah, you would enjoy that. So like even if it's like, it's signaling to you if the flashes in red, you have got to parry this individual quickly.
Right, okay.
So that's basically one of the things it does have going for it, but it just wasn't as responsive as I liked. It felt a bit stiff.
Yeah.
But in saying that kind of moves into the traversal of it. Oddly enough, like, it's floaty. The whole game does feel there's a bit of a floatiness to it.
Right.
But the traversal ended up being one of the most fun things. You get like a double jump ability, double jump and dash. So there's like kind of, small platform-esque puzzles within it.
Right.
And that really helps because the level design's fantastic. So it kind of weaves back in itself, and it does encourage you to go and explore and get loads of different resources in that. The downside is the resources don't feel plentiful enough to really take advantage of the upgrade system.
Right, okay.
But it was something that was enjoyable. I was like, this is fun. Like, I'm actually enjoying just being able to do it. And
the fact that you finished it
obviously
indicates that it is fun. Like, how long are we looking at for it?
So in terms of length, I think you wanted to get through that. Scott's pulling himself a drink.
Sorry, I've got a wee tickle in my throat.
No, on you go. It's fine. We're human after all.
Can listen to the
he's
fizz.
He's pouring himself just some hard liquor. That's what he's doing.
Pour one out.
But yeah, I think in terms of length, I reckon 6 to 8 hours.
Is that right?
Yeah, for the story. And if you wanted to go back and complete everything, maybe add another few, maybe 12 to 15.
Right, okay.
So it's not a long game. It's something that you could batter through in a weekend, as I did. And I was doing that. Not very long sessions. I think I finished it on the Saturday night, to be honest with you.
That's quite surprising.
So it was, yeah. But do you know what? I appreciated it for it.
I mean, we talk about, the respect of our time all the time, and that's kind of paramount. And like the game length is always necessary, and it's kind of good to have something that you're not tied into for weeks and weeks on end.
100%, and the story it's telling is pretty straightforward. It does a good job of kind of keeping you interested enough. It's really to the point. Boss fights in there with the gods, I found them satisfying. It reminded me kind of like God of War Valkyrie fights light,
right?
If you know what I mean. So it was pretty cool. Just kind of once you start to get in, I think about just before halfway into the game, you'll get enough resources to really start pumping it into your skills. And that's when it comes in handy with the bosses.
Right, okay.
Because it does become a bit of a boss rush feeling towards the end.
Cool. I like that.
It's cool. Like I said, it's kind of God of War meets Jedi Survivor. The inventory and the gear that you get is cool. I just wish that I could have taken more advantage of it. It felt a bit wasted considering how kind of short it was.
Is it a new game plus?
Not that I remember.
Because like if you've not got the the ability to max out things on one playthrough, then it kind of
I think this where my 6 out of 10 comes into line. As soon as I finished the credits, I turned off the Xbox and went to bed.
Aye.
And that was it.
What else were you going to do?
Is there a new Game Plus? I probably should have waited, but I deleted it and then right off my Xbox after doing it as well, because I thought I'm not going to return to it. It is what it is. But I mean, as I'd mentioned, by the end of it, I grew attached to the characters, and all that being said, I mean, it's an okay game. I do want to see more of them. Like, at the end of it, I was interested, I was invested. I thought it did a really good job.
It's like creating this world and stuff as well.
Yeah, and I hope they get another bite at it. I just would really like to see. I think there's a good foundation here for something, for a new series to be born. The final boss in particular was great. I really enjoyed that. But I mean, all in all, Tales of a Tight Tale, pretty okay-ish combat, and there's some awesome traversal around what is a really excellently designed world. So
I love that as a term, pretty okay-ish. That's my favourite thing. I think there's a space in the world for games like that.
There has to be. Has to be.
Aye, we can't always be one and done. You know what I mean? Like,
no.
Let series run and give people time and give them resources.
Exactly. And speaking of giving people things, I suppose I should mention as well that we've been lucky enough to get codes for Marvel.
What a transition, by the way. Incredible stuff, man.
That's it. But we have got codes for Marvel Rivals, so we're in the beta, and we've both had a wee go at it, but it's too soon to really give full impressions on it. We think we want to give more time with this, so that we'll talk about that next week. But I mean, all I will say right now is if you've played Overwatch, then you've definitely, you have a good idea of what to expect here, but I want to spend more time with it before I get into that, so more to come on that next week. And I'm looking forward to hearing your scores.
Okay.
Mr. Magneto over here.
It's so good though. I actually love him. Beautiful man.
I had a funny feeling he might be your favourite. They've got that look down to a T, but I digress. I think it's time for us to go into our main topic today, Scott. And I thought it'd be good for us to kind of take a beat and just talk about single versus multiplayer for parents. For parents. And you mentioned it before, it's the mantra of this podcast, respecting your time, isn't it? And I think there's been a lot of like multiplayer stuff. We're getting into that season now. A lot of big multiplayer games are coming out. I remember going back to Concord's review.
Yep.
And a lot of feedback, myself included actually, was that they wished it was a single player thing when they saw like the cutscenes and stuff like that, and instantly being disappointed at being a multiplayer. And I was just wondering, just to kick things off, like, do you have a preference? Are you very much like, I prefer A or B, or just like, I'm no arsed, I'll take either? But I mean, especially now with the limited time that we've got, is there a preference? There's no wrong answer.
It's a really good question though. It's because it really depends on the game and the time that I really want to put into it. Like with Concord, I've kind of recanted on how I feel about it, because I think it's fine as a multiplayer game.
Yeah,
I think it's cool. Like, if you want to make single player elements out of it, fire in. But it really depends on the game itself. Like Call of Duty Black Ops 6 coming out. Fucking hell. When was Black Ops 5 ever out?
Cold War.
Oh, Jesus Christ, right, okay.
It wasn't out in the Cold War, that was the name of the game.
Back in the end of World War II.
Yeah, the Reagan days.
What'd you call it? It really does just depend on the game that it is. So, like, with Call of Duty Black Ops 6, I know for a fact that we'll buy it, or we'll get it on Game Pass and we'll play it together.
Yeah, 100%.
So, like,
that's happening.
That is... The preference there is multiplayer, and that'll be a game that I'll play with you for ages, probably, right?
Yeah.
But there's going to be games in there that I'll be like, yeah, like Persona 3 probably still on the cards there, or whatever else is out around that time. My memory fails me, but it's just, it really does. I've not really got a preference. It's just whatever strikes at that point in time. And there are some games that I've played that I've wished, I don't even think, I'm actually going to lie, because it's not even the case. I've not played a game and thought, I wish that was multiplayer, or I wish that was single player. There's maybe games that I've wished I could have done in co-op, or games games like It Takes Two, for example. Like, obviously that's a game made for 2 players, but you need to be there and I need to be there at the same time, and that's difficult. You might always have that. Why not have like computer AI or whatever like I can do it for you? But to be honest with you, no. I think that it really does just depend on the game at the time, and as long as that's what's keeping my focus, then that's all that I need. You know, like I don't have time, and this is going to sound really stupid considering the fact that I spoke about Paper Mario, Kunitsu-Gami, and I've played other games this week, right? But I only really have time for one main game. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't ply my time into 100 different games all at once. It's I have one main focus, and I might have a couple of wee, hors d'oeuvres hors d'oeuvre kind of scattered around. But again, it just depends on what it is and whether or not it keeps my attention.
I suppose I'm kind of with you on it. I mean, obviously I enjoy both, always have, but I find that I naturally lean towards single player more so now.
Yeah.
Just because I'm an antisocial bugger. But I enjoy the power fantasy aspect of it. So when you do have like a little bit of limited time, I'm going into Assassin's Creed or something. I'm doing the platinum run and I'm putting it in easy because I just want to feel like a badass and not really be bothered. Or Elden Ring just a few weeks ago, the total opposite. Every now and then it's like I will feel up to a challenge. But I do love multiplayer experiences, and I'll dig into it more as we go on. But I mean, I do crave them. Like right now, I'm actually like, at that point. I think it's because Call of Duty season's coming up, and it's like I enjoy playing online with yourself, and even just to chat and just mindlessly shoot things at the same time. That has such, what's the word? It has long shoots. That's probably the way to put it, in the sense that it does a lot more for you than what I actually think, as opposed to me sitting down with a single. But like he says, I'm not going to be in the mood for that all the time. And if we look at us two exclusively, right, we'll always have our COD season, right, which is usually that first 3 to 6 months when the new one comes out. Like you mentioned, Black Ops 6 will do the same, and then we fall off by the summer. Then there's a few single player games, and it's COD season again, and things. And it just depends. I mean, this year you'll probably find that I might pop in and then drop off, or I'm going to be doing a lot of juggling between that and like Assassin's Creed Shadows or like Astro Bot or whatever it is at the same time. But I'm still going to be craving that, and I still enjoy it because I look at that purely and particularly from the parents' perspective, right? That's kind of like the social club, whatever you might call it. Because I'm not going to the pub. I'm not going to play golf. I'm not going to play football. I'm not doing any of that because I'm a home bird. That's basically it. I enjoy being at home.
Yeah.
And it's also like, that's where my money will go.
Yeah.
It's like I could either pay 130 quid on a night out, or I could pay 13 quid for Game Pass or something.
Were you going on a night out? Jesus Christ.
McDonald's, you see the prices these days? It's terrible.
I know what you mean, though. But it does make sense. Like, I've never really thought about it in a way like that. Like, we do have that regular sort of routine of there's certain periods in a year where we will hammer COD, and then resent having to play it every single day because we beat it something else is because I've just prestiged in the first day. No, I get what you mean, but I don't really think there's anything. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe FIFA or EAFC, as it's now known, but
featuring runner-up Jude Bellingham on the front cover.
It's fantastic. What do you call it? The heel turn's amazing. Is there anything else that we ever play that's not that? Like, do we feel like Concord is a legitimate thing that we might play?
Potentially,
because that requires us to both buy it.
There's definitely suitors out there, right?
Yeah.
There's Concord, there's Marvel Rivals, which has potential. Even like Helldivers 2, I'm just waiting for the right time to go into that because I do intend to jump in. I don't know if that's kind of like a light joke, but anyway, I do intend to jump in on Helldivers 2 at some point and play with yourself. And it's like, let's let's go. And I think as long as there's enough, I feel, momentum or excitement behind it between us, it's like, I'll give it a go. And then even the other week, we booted up like Gears of War 1 just for the co-op experience, and that sense of shared progression, shared challenge is good. But if I look at it, compare now to when I was younger, and maybe it's just because there's less of those games available, I would sink a lot more time into multiplayer.
I think it's a young person's game now. I think I was talking about this with my nephew today, actually. He's big on Fortnite at the moment and just got a PS5, so flexing. This is the term they use, flexing on all his mates about the fact that he got a PS5, which is hilarious.
Too right.
Talking to me about build and no build, and I'm like, yeah, I was there when it all started.
So OG.
I know everything about Fortnite. And they've just put Cybertrucks in it as well.
My God.
But he's talking to me about this game, and I swear to God, they might as well have been talking in Swedish to me. Like, it's just, I've got no idea what's going on with it, but the time that you have to sink into it is just incredible. I was talking to him about it today in the sort of view of fighting games and how the first few weeks when you first play it, you're really good at it, right? Because you're playing people with the same in the same sort of kind of manner as you, right? Transferring that onto COD, you're playing people with the same level, same experience. We're all on the sort of level playing ground, unless you're, some absolute weirdo that's been playing Call of Duty for the past 1,000 years.
Yeah.
But week 2, you start to see the meta builds, the people who are actually really, really good at it, the crazy folk, people who have not stopped playing it for the last week. And then by week 3, week 4, you're starting to absolutely resent every single person that you're playing in it, because if you take 1-2 days off, maybe 3 days off, a week off of that, you're behind a week, and that's the difficulty with it. Is when you were young, you could jump in there for a few hours every single day, and you've got that base that you can kind of catch up with everything. You can see the meta builds, you can see everything and kind of how it's all working. Whereas if we were to jump into Fortnite right now, what do we go and do? I mean, we did it last year,
couple of years ago.
And I think we just drove around.
We did
on cars.
In fact, it was longer than that. Moon Knight just came out. So long ago it was.
So we drove about in cars and stuff. So it's like, as a parent, and even just as an adult in general, you don't really have that time. Like, I relate to it in fighting games where I was really good at Mortal Kombat X or Mortal Kombat 11 for the first 2 months of it, and then I stopped playing it. Went back to it maybe 6 months later, and I was getting my arse handed to me every single time. And it's just because you just don't know what's going on and what's changed. So
yeah, and I think you've definitely touched upon, I think, what could be at the heart of it. And I think with limited time, as we always say, right, because we do have to be selective with our time, because you've got other more important responsibilities, and this isn't a responsibility, it's a hobby, so they come first. But I think it's to do with getting hooked on a sense of progression and rewarding that time. Yeah. So with Fortnite, I never felt that. I felt like I was just, farting into the wind, and it's just like, right, okay. And I know there's battle passes and all that, but at least Call of Duty's always had that sense of progression. Like, right, there's, I get to this level and unlock this attachment or whatnot. And at least I feel like if I spend 2 hours on Call of Duty one night with you, and then even if I don't go back to it for a couple of days, it's like, right, here's where I left off. Yeah. And here's where I go. And I don't feel that sense of being behind. But I totally get what you mean. Because I remember being younger and playing any multiplayer game. And usually it was like, right, and they went through a phase of even the big single player games where we'd be putting multiplayer into it, like The Last of Us and stuff like that. Yeah. And it did feel like it would quickly leave you behind unless you were keeping up to date with it all the time, because you had time to check in. And I would do that routinely. I remember, even when I go back, when I say young, I must have been 21 or something. If I was going out to a gig, if I was playing the drums that night, or if I was going out to play football or something, I'd always just get a few rounds of Call of Duty in, just to be like, right, this just kind of made me feel a little bit more alert up for stuff, and off I went. Now I couldn't picture it. It's like it's more of a social thing for me, as opposed to
that's the difference in it now. It's like you not playing Marvel Snap for 2 weeks. and
Perish the thought.
the meta changes. Do you know what I mean?
It
Like
would.
everything changes within that time, and you have to then catch up.
Maybe it'll change to be something good. The heel turn continues.
Oh God.
No, but I suppose you're right, because I mean, I have played that every single day since it's came out, and that is my shame. It's like Homer Simpson eating the flowers, my secret shame.
Aye.
But yeah, you're absolutely right. And I remember, like, for me, when it comes to single view multiplayer, I do, as I mentioned, I'll tend to go towards the single ones because that progression, I feel, and like you said, whether it's progressing a story or progressing my character or whatnot, that's how we fell off of Destiny, because that just left us in the dust. And there's been times where I've thought it'd be great to go back, and you're usually the realist between us, which is like, there's no point. Like, why? There's been about 20 million expansions. You're not getting back on board with that.
The doom-monger.
The doom-monger. But I know it can be such a positive thing mentally, and I'll just use my own experience. I think it would, hold water with many other parents out there in the same boat as us. Like having a session with your friends, shooting the breeze, getting lost in whatever you're doing does wonders for you mentally. I think, because if you've got wee ones, you probably find that's the first thing that changes. You've got no time to see your pals.
Aye.
And I remember when I first became a dad, we would have our multiplayer Wednesdays. Every Wednesday at 10 o'clock, both yourself and I and a good friend who, in fact, our good friend Andrew, right? Because then people won't know who we're talking about. We won't name him by full, but we used to play every Wednesday at 10, and that was booked out because you're settling into the new routine. Yeah. So I could just go to my wife and it's like, right, this night, that's all I want, that's all I need type thing. Is that cool? Effectively, because you're like, it's both our time, we're both looking after this little tiny human. And of course, you would just figure that out, because the same goes for her. She needs time, I need time. You use it however. It could be watching Kardashians. For me, it's, pretending I'm
pointed at me.
Oh,
I'm not watching that. I'm not watching that filth.
But it was important, and I loved it, and it kind of acted as, the reset.
Yeah, it's massive. I don't think it gets enough credit. Like, I don't think that we've ever really vocalized it. Maybe when drunk and you become like hyper emotional, but it really is necessary at that point. Like, having children is hard.
It is, yeah.
On everyone, on yourself, on your partner, on the relationship in general, just like on everything. It's brutal. Like, I laugh now thinking about that first 6 weeks, because you're just not there. Like, you're literally just surviving at that point.
Oh, your head's up your ass.
Aye,
at that point.
and then it gradually gets easier, and you start to kind of become a parent at that point. Do you know what I mean? But
yeah, you grow into it, don't you?
It's just having these moments where you can start to feel like yourself again, and you start to do things that you previously would have done in a past life, like and things that you enjoy. Like as I said, we would do that on a Wednesday, and I remember just saying to my wife on a Friday, like, you do what you need to do. Yeah. Like, whether that be like Pilates and stuff like that at that point, there was loads of different things, but it was just, you take time for you, and that's what you need. Yeah. A child comes into your life and it is just everything. You forget about yourself at that point. You just focus all on them, and rightly slow, because they can't do it themselves. But I think that it gets you through it at that point, because it's really difficult. Yeah, and everyone has different things. Like, some people might have golf, some people might have laser tag. Yep, if that's still a thing. Some people might have
walking Monroes.
Aye. That's the thing. Like, it's just do what you need to do that gets you by. But for us, it's video games, and that got us through it. So it was massive, and
yeah. No, it definitely is. You're right. Just having that couple hours away from the big responsibilities, like you says, even
during COVID as well. Like, during COVID, like, it's
firing up the stupid part of your brain,
and it just keeps you sane. Like,
why?
If honestly, if we never had that, and you were having to talk to each other through windows, like, it was just like, that's crazy. But it kept you right. And there was I mean, an element of it, but it's pure, you going back up there to talk to him again and stuff like that. And it's like, you need it. You do need it. And it's socially, like, I've become a pure hermit since COVID, because I can't be asking out, and I'm too old for it now. But I'd rather just sit in and play something.
Yeah.
And if that's a single player game, that's fine. But we always find time to, like, this podcast has helped.
Yeah.
Like, this is kind of therapy. It's a show, and that's fine, right? But
big show.
This, but it's also these stupid legs. You've got me, man. Actually, that's it. But it's kind of therapy, because you start to relive the memories of everything that happened in the past, and you know, we have our bits and we have all the daft stuff that we say, but there are things in here that are chunks of just they're golden nuggets of life.
Yep.
You know,
yeah,
golden nuggets of it, and this is part of it. I think it's
100%. You know, it's pretty much the main reason why we decided to start it. You know, because we know that there's going to be people further on in their parenthood journey that's, you know, big into video games. So just at the start of it, and if we can impart any pieces of knowledge, you know, it will settle. You know, you will still have that protected time, and if not, consider it. If it's something that you used to do, really just find the time. And if it is a single player or multiplayer, I think the single player is good for the digital tourism side of it.
Yeah. But the multiplayer is good in terms that it's kind of, you're in and out.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to worry about making progress. In that way, you know, you can just bringing it into like Fortnite or whatever. You could just jump in a few rounds.
Yeah.
Do your mad emotes and die. You know, like the usual.
The balance of both, I think, you know, it's just a great way to keep in touch with people. And I think, and I do look back on those days fondly, and I'm happy now. I mean, I think obviously we couldn't have started this podcast back in those days. It's just one thing too many. Now we're a bit further removed. We can, and it's good because it's like, even at the weekend there with Flintlock, it was like I had a rare afternoon session, but it was just that moment. Now the kids are at that point where, like, we've been out during the day, we all get home, so my wife's reading a book, the kids, they just want to play with their toys or something. I'm like, I'm just going to fire this on, and my son, he's like, what are you playing and stuff. Obviously there's nothing gory or bad. I wouldn't, like, you know, stick on anything inappropriate in front of them, but this one's like cartoonish, and it's just like, yep, Daddy's doing that for the show, and it's like, yeah, I am. And it kind of felt like it unlocked that old part of me from donkeys ago that would be reviewing games regularly, and it's like, all right, cool, I remember I used to do this. And yeah, it's good for that kind of touchstone to who you are, your personality, if that's what you're into.
That's what it is. Games are therapy, and whatever it is, keep socially interacting with people. Like, the worst thing you can do is take yourself away from that.
Yeah.
And it's easy to do it. When you've got a newborn, or even if you've not got a newborn, even if you've got like a toddler, a 4-year-old, 5-year-old, 6-year-old, just keep in contact with folk, because it is massive. It is enormous in terms of keeping you right.
And I definitely would say as well, if you're braver than I, and you're a bit more outgoing, seek people online. There will be a tribe out there that, you know, that will. There's lots of people in the same boat as you, and if you don't have the people to jump online with, you know, even drop us a message, because, you know, we'd happily set something up. You know,
1v1 you on Rust,
1v1 on Rust all day long. That's it. You know, just a teabag group for online 1v1 Rust. Yeah, but I mean, it's worth doing. It's worth doing. But I mean, again, that was a great little chat about that. It was definitely a topic I've been thinking about for a while for us to talk about, because there's so much realness, real talk here. I sound like Oprah. But anyway, I think it's time we move on. So, of course, that means that it's time for the Pixel Picks Showdown, where each week we pick a game from our chosen theme, and we decide which one deserves to live on in the hallowed Pixel Picks list, which is our definitive list of the best games we recommend to pass on to the next generation of gamers. So last week's theme was Hack and Slash, with Devil May Cry 5 becoming the latest addition to the list. I'm correct in remembering that well, aren't I?
Very correct to remember it, because I just remembered as well, which is why I sat
Excellent.
back, because you go first.
That's it. Well, of course, this week's showdown, we're debating what is the best JRPG game we think should feature on the Pixel Picks list.
This is worse than last week's, because there's so many.
There are so many. And I tell you what, like you said, last week's winner goes last, so you're going last, so I'm going to kick things off. But there are so many. But I'm also feeling like that this is a Scott Curry week. Like, there isn't even any point in me turning up, but then I had to think about it, and I actually think I've got good answers from the heart.
I'm interested.
From the heart,
because this is
not
a
my
type of game that's not your jam,
not my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
So I thought,
oh,
there's one that I've got as my pick, which is an old timer.
Okay.
In fact, there was two. In fact, there was four.
Oh, jeez, oh.
But yeah, the prefix here is that JRPGs just aren't my jam. Like they just aren't that thing for me. You know, I suppose. What's that version for? What's the genre for you that would be like that's such a lame ass week?
Xbox games.
Xbox games, right? Okay.
Halo
right.
games.
Halo games. Yeah. First
person shooters, probably.
Yeah.
Aye.
First person shooters. Okay. Yeah.
It was like when you picked COD that time. It was like, oh, fuck's sake, there's no point.
Low hanging fruit though. It's the strategy. I could have picked other games.
Even like open world stuff.
Oh yes, open. Yeah, I am the explorer. You know, I'm Dora. That's me. So
I'm Boots. But no, I'm the map.
Christ. But I'll kick things off with my honourable mention. Right, low hanging fruit.
Okay.
Right? So I don't really have much to choose from. I think my well isn't as deep as yours here. So for me, it's a new one. And I'm going to go with honourable mention the Final Fantasy VII remake. I really am.
Yes.
Of course, your moniker has come from this, isn't it? Like the Tastemaker recommending that at the start of the year. It might feel like a cop out. I do feel slightly unworthy putting it on as an honourable mention because the original did fail to grab me. But after playing that, delivers an experience that anybody can play now.
Yeah.
And what an experience, even looking at it as a standalone game, right? Forget all the, it's connecting to Rebirth and all the rest of it. I think, or even without playing the extremely dated original, at this point, it has to get a shout from me. It has to. I've not got the rose-tinted glasses here yet. But you will fall in love with that world, guaranteed. I think that everything they did to modernise it, it got me on board with it. I'm like, say no more. That's an extremely biased point of view, but it is what it is. But I think you'll fall in love with those characters, and it's just a bit more involved than what my pick is, which is why it's honourable mention. But it's also probably because I'm kind of feeling unworthy of putting it on there, because it's like I'm still new to it, so I can't really talk with authority on it yet. So, but I do still think that what a fantastic game. Just
as an aside to this, right? That there has to be a moment in time where you play the original Final Fantasy, but don't play it. You don't have to play it like blind. Open a guide, go to Power Picks and just put Final Fantasy VII, the OG, and just play it with a guide just for the story. Well, because it is honestly like, now that you know the story of it, I feel like it would hit completely different, and it's incredible. Like
I do want to. Don't get me wrong. There is just genuine dated aspects of being a PlayStation 1 game.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually I forgot to mention this. I started playing Crisis Core this week.
Oh, it's so good, man.
But it's one of those ones that I have been spoiled. With remake and Rebirth this year, and it just made me appreciate how slick and just so good that gameplay is.
It's just Crisis Core's a PSP game, though, isn't it? Like,
exactly, and it shows. But I'm trying to see past it, and I end up giving up just fairly quickly. But
gorgeous Zach,
exactly, Zach for all day. But I'm like,
Sephiroth.
I just want the story. But who knows?
I get what you mean. I do think that OG Final Fantasy VII has to be in the cards.
It is on the cards. Like, I can assure you, it is on the cards, and I'll give it a revisit. Does my opinion change from an 8-year-old boy? to now, so we'll see. But
So.
I will move on to my pick. And speaking of me as a young man, this is definitely the one I'm going with. And it was tough, right? Because my heart said something else. But then I'm thinking, as a game, it's just so much better. So my pick this week is Pokemon Gold and Silver. Okay.
Right, okay.
So my heart was screaming red and blue because everyone remembers this first, don't they? So, and red and blue, they're up there for me, right? But gold, silver, it just improved on that in so many ways. And I'll get into why I've picked it, of course.
Can I stop you for 2 seconds, right?
Mm-hmm.
What did you have, red or blue?
Red.
What did you have, gold or silver?
Gold.
Because I had red. Or did you say you had blue?
No.
I had blue and I had silver.
Yeah.
So it's like the complete opposite.
Exactly. No, Charizard and Ho all the way for me. But for me, it was, like I said, it improved on that for so many ways. Still to this day, still the best Pokemon game. Like everything about it. It was balanced perfectly. It had just enough features with it being overstuffed as what the kind of later ones had.
Yeah.
Yes, of course, I'm speaking from nostalgia, but the later ones just didn't grab me. And just getting to explore Johto with those new starters, like the 252, perfect amount. Once it starts getting above that, nah, you're getting random garbage, literal garbage Pokemon and ice creams.
Letters of the alphabet.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, it's like those starters, man, goated. I'm sorry, but like, they're so good. So good. And then just being able to get that feeling for the second time,
yeah,
which was amazing. Like all these new types, and then they how they play off each other with that kind of rock, paper, scissors type gameplay that's known for. And then, of course, the moment you realise, a lot of people say, gold, silver's dead easy. I was like level 45, 50 when I beat all eight gyms. It's like, I go speak to Professor Oak, you know? And then you have to go and return to Kanto and truly prove yourself as a Pokemon master. Minds were blown, and it still is. That's up there as like one of the greatest like kind of end games ever in a video game. But why have I picked it for JRPG? You know, I think it's the gateway drug for a generation. It really is, for all ages, because new people that play Final Fantasy VII, new people that play, that's probably the only other one that can come close, but everybody had played Pokemon Gold and Silver. They didn't even realise that they're playing a JRPG.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the beauty of it. That is the beauty of it. It's like, if you're going to introduce it, it's like, before you realise it, you're learning all the mechanics of a turn-based JRPG.
Yeah, it's true.
And you know how it works. So if ever, even to this day, if it's the touchstone for it, and it translates the experience to me. So it's like, if someone's asking me, what's a JRPG? Is it, did you play Pokemon? Yeah. So there you go. You know, you take a turn, they take a turn, so on and so forth. And the exploration and all the rest of it. You know, outlandish characters, stories, weird trash monsters, you name it. And, you know, for me, it transgresses generations in that way. So I could recommend that to anybody on the list. You know, I feel like I had to put it there because I feel it's essential. I think like you could put that there. You could whack a different colour of Pokemon on the end of, to be honest with you. But Gold, Silver, I think it's just such a special game.
Mm-hmm.
Please remake it. But
why remake it? Why do you just put it on the Switch Online?
Just to make it a little bit more fancy. That's it. But if they put it in Switch Online, yes, that would be fantastic. And
I think it's the, you know, it's, you're right, the correct amount of Pokemon, the correct amount of, you know, like exploration and stuff like that, as well as that when you move through to kind of modern day Pokemon, it's just that you play it for an hour and you can't be bothered anymore. I played Pokemon Blue like for years. It felt like a
disgusting amount.
It's wild, and burned through Game Boys just to play it. Like it was a phenomenon when we were younger though as well. It was fantastic. I don't have particularly great memories of Gold and Silver. It's not. I remember playing them, but I don't remember them as much as Red and Blue, and that's the reason why I don't really agree with you. But I get your point. You know,
Yeah.
it's.
I think it's the. So when I remember like, when Pokemon had exploded, it was the cards.
Yeah.
I remember that at the primary school at the time.
Now, you're a bit older than me, so you will remember though.
Oh yes, it was a slight stone with Pikachu's carved on it. But I remember at the time, and it was the cards, and you get hooked on it. Then it was a trading card game, then the anime, and then it was actually my cousin. He'd got the. I was like, "There's a game, what?" And because of all that kind of prior knowledge, it's like, okay, I'll give it a go. And it's like, oh, you do this and that, and you learn about it, and then the whole playground, like, kind of speak around it. Like, how do you beat this? How do you beat that? Oh, use underneath the car. And then, like, with gold and silver, that's how you found about going back to Kanto.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't really signpost it. And it's like, have you did this yet? And it's like, what? And you go home and you're like, oh my God, it's unbelievable. And, you know, like, leaving the Ditto with the breeders and stuff like that. There was so much more of that speak around it. And by that point, you had kind of settled into the JRPG style of game, which was incredible.
It's true. You don't really think about it. It's not
total Trojan horse.
It's completely not anything. It's not what I thought you were going to say.
Yeah.
I didn't know what you were going to say, but it wasn't that.
See, I was worried at first, and I thought I've actually got a good pick this week.
That is a really good pick, and I'm actually quite raging about it.
Over to you, Scott.
So, Christ, right? Honourable mentions. Because you know, I never go for one honourable mention. I have to put 15. I'm just going to name them because you know if I go too far into it. Final Fantasy 7, 8. I'm going to show some love for 10.
Okay.
I love Final Fantasy 10. I love it. It's like, you know, the black sheep of the Final Fantasy series.
Yeah.
It obviously has a lot of love with it, but my God, that is a video game and a half. Legend of Dragoon, more recently. I think if I played that when I was younger, I would have been obsessed with it. It would have been, you know, life altering for me.
Yeah.
I would have made that my sole purpose in life. Golden Sun, played that in uni, legally on an emulator.
Yeah.
And then if I want to be really snobby about it, Lost Odyssey on the Xbox 360.
Yep.
Obviously kind of created by people who made Final Fantasy, so it's a fantastic game though. It's basically just Final Fantasy 10, but on the Xbox with different characters, and it has such an excellent combat thing as well, where you have to sort of time the hits and stuff, so it keeps you interested in it. But I was just thinking, what are the kind of formative JRPGs that I've played that, you know, I can really think back on and be like, aye, that's what I want on the list, and what would I be happy to send on to the next generation?
Did you put 7 on your honourable mentions?
I did put 7.
I'm thrown for a loop. Let's see it.
Because I thought I do like Final Fantasy 7, but I don't like it as much as this game that I'm going to talk about.
Okay.
And it's Persona 5 Royal.
Okay, right, yeah.
I think that is a masterpiece. If there's ever a game that I could give a 10, that would be it. And I'd give it another one on top of it as well, because it's just, personally and, you know, professionally speaking, it is just fantastic. You know, the story, the characters, the combat, everything around it is so stylish. I mean, like, I remember watching the cutscenes and I'd be like, bloody hell. Like, it is incredible. But any game that you play that gets you interested in a series of games is special. You know, it's like playing Metal Gear Solid 3 for the first time and being like, well, I didn't realise there's a Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2, you know, and getting you interested in the whole thing. But Persona 5, obviously Royal was the version that I played first, and it's got me interested in the entire Persona series for it. It's not just a great JRPG, but it's not just, so how am I trying to word this? It's not just a great JRPG brought within the last 10 years, right? It is a great JRPG that I think that we will look back in 20, 30 years' time and be like, that was special, you know? Like, it's like how we look at Final Fantasy 7 now. I think we'll look at Persona 5 Royal in the next 20, 30 years and be like, remember that, you know? Like, and there's a reason why Joker from that has been put in Smash and stuff as well, and you're starting to see them bleed into different ways. But as I say, it just oozes style. Everything that you do in it, like the combat in it, the characters in it, all the wee personas in it. You've got snowmen, you've got loads of different things. Like, they're all the same in most of the other games, but it's just the way that everything happens in it.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
you have, so trying to explain this to you in a way that makes sense, but it's kind of like Pokemon where you collect different things, right?
Yep.
But it does it better. Each character has an elemental weakness.
Yep.
Sounding a bit like Pokemon.
You see why I picked this now, don't you?
Yeah, it could have been anything though. It could have been any other game. But what happens is you have like these weaknesses, you put them down, and then you have like a wee skirmish attack.
Mhm.
And when that character dies, it flashes on the screen. It's just this completely amazing looking artwork, and it's just like I'm invested in this from minute one. I was invested in it to minute, hour 70. Where even then I wasn't hating it. It's the right kind of difficult as well. Like it kind of it generates that difficulty as it goes through, and it also toys with Psychonauts 2. Got a lot of and I never played the first Psychonauts, but Psychonauts 2 got a lot of praise for its its depictions of mental health and stuff like that.
What a fantastic fucking game that is.
I'm sorry for bringing it up
Have
because
to,
I know
though.
you. I know.
Stop me.
It's Persona 5 Royal does it as well.
Yeah.
Where it kind of it deals with really difficult points in its own way. Like you have to kind of take it with the rub, but it's I think for me, when I was thinking about JRPGs that I'd want to pass on, there's an element of nostalgia with this, whereby it harkens back to memories of when the Wii one was first born, and I'm playing this game every single night because I'm not having these chats with you. I'm not be able to play online games. The only games I can play are single player, and I can play it for an hour or two and just chip through wee parts of it as well. But I think that it's definitely something that I'd want to put on the list. And as I say, it's just a fantastic game. I think the only con to this, right? And if I have to sort of criticize my own choice, is that when you look at opinions online, they do say that 4 and 3 are, better games. And I'm sort of with 3, I can't really say that for sure because it's very similar. But five does everything well. Like,
yeah, I mean, from an outsider looking in, I've not played Persona 5 Royal, but that is the quintessential version of that game.
Yeah,
and that always seems to be one that gets the highest praise.
It's incredible. Like, there's something so mundane about you go through a day, you go through school, and then you create these real relationships with all your pals, and you constantly have to go and meet them, and then they level up, and then that can level up your persona, and it's just this constant management of all this.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting series, and it's a game that you will never play, and you should never play it because I don't think you would get along with it. I think there's maybe a game there that you could enjoy, obviously because you're talking about Pokemon and stuff like that, and there is parts of it.
Grandfather.
There's kind of points of it that are like that, but it's a game that I'd never see you playing it ever, and it's a shame, but it's just a masterpiece, and that's the reason why it deserves to be on the list.
Of course, and all of our picks, of course, are masterpieces. We wouldn't pick anything other.
Blinks the time sweeper.
Yeah, Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games. But I mean,
that's my greatest moment in this whole show.
Well, I mean, the only point I make is just like, I'm familiar with the Persona games. It's just to kind of set the window dressing of it. That's obviously doesn't interest me. People can say that about any game, to be fair, so that's not an argument against it. So I'm not going to pull it down for that. However, what you described and what I know of it does sound derivative of the Pokemon formula.
That doesn't make any difference to it.
No. I'm building here.
That doesn't make any difference.
So it's like,
is that even what I'm trying to say?
The only case I can make is that it's the simplicity of Pokemon. I think that why it would deserve its place on the list, almost that Trojan horse RPG. However, I'm going to put it over to you because you've played them both.
This is the same as last week.
I know, but it's another Scott week, so
I don't know. I really don't know because I see
Open World Week.
I see the argument for both, to be honest with you, in that.
Well, in all honesty, and with your objective hat on, what do you think it comes? What one out of the two is the best RPG game, the JRPG game that we can put on our list? What would you say?
I think
to recommend to that next generation of gamers. such weight, such responsibility.
It's a lot of responsibility. I think that the fact that it's a Trojan horse is what fails it, because we're trying to pick JRPG games.
Yep.
So the fact that it has to be a Trojan horse JRPG where you don't actually know that it is kind of like,
I mean,
it kind of goes by the wayside. Then like it could just be an RPG at that point. You know what I mean?
I mean, it's not. But I mean,
but you know what I mean. Like it's like it could be any other type of game.
It could be,
but
it's a
JRPG. If we're picking a game that is a JRPG and it's like known for being a JRPG, how could I pick it? But then again, it's a really tough one. I think if you'd said blue or red, I'd probably go with Pokemon, because in my head I know what I'm doing in that game, and obviously I'm doing the exact same thing with Gold and Silver, but I don't have any.
Yeah, I didn't pick them because I think I picked them up beforehand. I can't
remember, but it's a really tough pick because I don't have any nostalgia for Gold and Silver, because I just can't remember ever playing them. Whereas I do with Persona. Yeah. Flip a coin.
No. We'll take. I mean,
no, I'm flipping.
It feels to me like Persona 5 Royal. It was Royal, wasn't it?
Yes, I'm flipping a coin.
No.
Not your head.
We shan't leave this to chance, because I think
it's a pound coin. Heads or tails?
Heads. There we go.
The coin speaks.
The coin speaketh.
The Queen's knows.
Oh,
so it is Pokemon Gold and Silver that gets the rub.
This is monumental. I mean, obviously it was down to chance, but I mean, this is probably the biggest upset we've had on this list in some time. I've came in here just thinking I'm just going to chuck this in here just to see.
I think it makes sense. Though. It does make sense. Like it's.
There'll be parts of the internet coming for it. It's like, it's a Nintendo RPG, no JRPG. It's Bolt. I've won.
Nintendo are Japanese, so it's kind of the same thing.
Exactly. But I tell you what, we've got a doozy next week. A real doozy.
For both of us, or for you, or for me?
Both of us.
Oh, Christ, right.
And I think we'll end up picking the same thing, at least in an honourable mention. But yeah, well done to Pokemon Gold and Silver. I was not expecting that.
No, I think I'm happy with it being on the list.
I was fully prepared to come in here for you to make the case for Final Fantasy 7, or a Final Fantasy. Like, just like, he's going to pick one. He's going to pick 7. He might pick 9. I'm not sure, but yeah, stunned. Absolutely stunned.
I'm happy you've won it. I am.
Yeah, that's it. Back on the board. Back on the board. There's been no streaks the past couple of weeks. It's been back and forth.
That's good though.
You know what I mean? That's good. It's nice and healthy. Of course, but yeah, well done to Pokemon Gold and Silver, the best JRPG. So of course, this brings us to the end.
Doesn't feel right. It really doesn't feel right.
And that's what makes it all.
I feel ill now. I'm gonna go home and.
Well, before you do become ill, I suppose we should wrap this up. So, I mean, we are at the end of the show. So, again, thank you to our listeners for tuning in. And, of course, this is where we tell people to find us online, Scott. Where can people find you if they wanted more of your Persona 5 Royal, please?
No, I'm going to go and cry into my pillows. LlamaMan91. Had to check the show run because I always forget every single week.
There we go. And, of course, you can find me at Carmelite on Twitter. Never calling it X. And of course, again, if you leave us a wee 5-star review, really makes a massive difference. And again, putting the same challenge as last week. If you like what you hear, share it with your friends, let them know, and let's just start building this community together. Again, means the world. So thank you very much.
I'll 1v1 every single one of them on Rust. Or on any game of their choice.
Well, it's true as well. If anybody was interested in some type of Pixel Parents type community for multiplayer nights or whatnot, give us a shout. That'd be good to kind of get together.
I'll fight you all.
All the Rust games, whilst I just sit and play the best JRPG game in the corner somewhere. And of course, a massive thank you to our producer and music man, the ever so talented and so handsome Mr. Sean Murray. He makes everything possible that you're hearing right now, so thank you to Sean. And of course, you can listen to all episodes on our major podcast platforms of your choice. And you can follow us on Twitter at Pixel_Parents. Or, of course, write to us at pixelparentspodcast@gmail.com. But until next time, stay safe, stay sane, and thank you for listening.
I'm still raging, man. I'm still raging.